One of the big developments that we saw in the loyalty space this year is momentum around cross-brand partnerships. And there's a lot of reasons why we're seeing this happen across industries. Partnerships are a way to help companies augment their existing capabilities around their program, reach more consumers, bring new consumers into their program, and stay connected to them across the years. It is the most cost-effective way of driving consistent member acquisition and driving ongoing retention. And increasingly, the technology solutions that are out there make it really easy for programs to plug into each other, share data, link accounts, and really create a more seamless experience for all of their members.
Two main developments that we're keeping a very close eye on. The first one is artificial intelligence. Up until recently, it has been only available to really big programs with big budgets, but with the rise of ChatGPT and other engines and LLMs, it's going to be coming a lot more mainstream. And so we're seeing a lot of experimentation in that, which is really exciting. The other thing is the convergence of payments and loyalty. There's some really, really exciting innovations that have happened over the past 12 months, which are going to enable this to be a lot more mainstream and provide businesses, especially smaller businesses, with the opportunity to do some really great stuff.
We have seen various milestones over the last year, especially 2023. The most fundamental one is actually seeing loyalty program owners to try to fix their basics. What does it mean? It means in getting more and more in control into what the loyalty program should realize, and secondly, trying to grasp all the customer data in an effective way to be able to offer personalized offerings. Across the industries, we have seen this as a big milestone in acquiring and capturing the right customer data to be able to offer personalized offerings over a rebuilt loyalty program model.
Another trend we've seen gain greater heat over the last year is really around providing the consumer or the member with greater flexibility and choice in how they want to enjoy the rewards and benefits of the program. Kind of year after year, this is something we see consumers care about most in their interactions with loyalty, and brands are continuing to respond. This comes in multiple forms. Part of it comes with just offering things like choice benefits, which we've seen really take off across the airlines and many of the hotel players globally over the last year. It also comes in the form of providing micro incentives to members to continue engaging with the brand and the program when they're between statuses or between tiers, which also come in the form of a choice between multiple benefits.
As we think about the most important developments in loyalty in the past year, two come to mind. The first is the return or large part of the way to return to pre-pandemic practices, and to the extent that we've achieved a new normal, the establishment of a new normal, so to speak, in the role of loyalty programs in the economy. The second development that, as I think our conversation will build upon, is the continued investment in loyalty programs as a vehicle for individualized marketing and personalization. I believe that loyalty programs have evolved from rewards programs to essentially individualized marketing systems. And that is foundational to the continued investment by major companies in both the upgrading and relaunch of existing programs and the development of new programs. And I suggest will be a development that we see grow in future years.
I think the biggest one, which every program across different categories is probably familiar with, is a recalibration of what expectations of value and how we're delivering value to the customers. I think naturally from an airline or a hotel loyalty program perspective, the change in travel demand and the sheer increase in travel definitely put some pressure on award inventory. And naturally, that takes time for a business to respond to that. I think a kick on from that as well is how then the loyalty programs are demonstrating value. I think those traditional KPIs are changing, and obviously with a real spotlight on in particular for aviation, on the capacity and the yields, the way that loyalty programs are presenting their value contribution to a business does need to be, front and center. COVID obviously shone a light on loyalty programs and the value that they can drive, but I think in pole position now are some of the other departments with the increase in travel. I do also think that personalization maintains its position as well, but I think there is potentially a step back from personalization in regards to, is one-to-one realistic? And can we set more realistic expectations and therefore do more with the technology that we have to hand? And then finally, I would say the continuous evolution into lifestyle space, which as per the first piece and the pressure of award inventory, I think that's a reaction, and how the currencies can be liberated to ensure that we maintain that value exchange with the membership base.
Well, 2023, I think, has been quite an interesting year. I think the predictions, if we look back at what we said at the beginning of the year, probably haven't quite matured in that way. I think people have made some interesting inroads into the use of AI and personalization and things that we talked about at the beginning of last year. We have seen people much more calmer around the pandemic. We worried about some changes in behavior that were kind of starting to set in how people shopped. I think those things haven't materialized. I think we're seeing some people come back to the high street, some people coming back into more traditional ways of e-commerce. And I think that's calmed everything down. So all in all, it's not been a bad year, but I've not seen really any big, seismic changes in loyalty in this last year.
Coming at this from a couple of angles. One is running the loyalty security. One is running the Loyalty Security Alliance, and the other is from running conferences covering loyalty, covering co-brand cards, and all things airlines, hotels, and all the big programs. So the key thing that we've seen over the year is the whole bit of more and more programs moving to totally revenue-based. What that then leads to is more and more currency. So more and more rewards chasing fewer and fewer opportunities. So inflation on a grand scale. And to put that into perspective on the co-brand cards, Delta with Sky Miles and British Airways with their American Express card have said that the spend on those cards are equal to 1% of the GDP of the US and 1% of the GDP of the UK. So it's a huge market. That's then having knock-on effects into the other bit of recognition. So we've seen what Delta's done in terms of their program revamp, in terms of elites. And that is really, an example, perhaps, of how not to do communications in the 21st century.